This is where real conversations happen. Welcome to Sit Down Sundays on the Final Boss podcast, where the movers, the creators, the ones really making things shake, pull up, sit down and talk different. No filters, no fluff, just raw stories, real journeys, and the mindset behind success. From influencers to entrepreneurs to visionaries turning ideas into empires, we tap in with the people who don't just talk about it, they live it. This ain't just an interview, this is a seat at the table. So lock in, listen close, and learn how bosses move. Sit Down Sundays, only on the Final Boss podcast. New era, same boss.
Welcome to the Final Boss podcast. This is Sunday night, sitting down with Sundays. Man, listen, I couldn't do the show last night. I could not do the show last night, man. Couldn't do the show last night because there was a crazy storm, right? Power was out, everything. Listen, it was crazy, man. That was a crazy storm, man. These summer storms are getting man, that was crazy. But look, guess what? It's Sitting Down Sundays, right? And if you don't know this, man, you don't know this, but I'm about to tell you, man. I'm about to tell you right now. I got a great show for you. First of all, you already know I got a great show for you. We're in Arc 5 now, man. And tonight we're going to use this episode tonight as the official episode for Arc 5, right? The declaration. And we're even going to call this one the declaration, right? And we're going to be talking about a question that's been on my mind since America's 250th birthday, right? So we're going to talk about that. But look, if you're just now joining us, thank you for being here. And for those who are new to the show, man, listen, wait a minute. I got a message already. Wade, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining us, man. Thank you for joining us. Listen, usually this is our Sunday show. I see you, Kamal. All right. Thank you. What's going on? So listen, man. Usually, this is our Sunday night show, man. I couldn't do the show last night because of the power outage from the storm and everything, man. Backups were out. Everything was out. So I couldn't do the show last night. So I'm doing it right now. So thank you guys for joining us, man. We're getting ready to get into it, right? So this is season 4, The Rebirth, Arc 5, The Declaration, episode number 273, man. 273, man. Woo! We're on our way to episode number 300, man. And 300 opens up the next season 5, the harvest, man. Can't wait till the harvest, man. Big things are happening for the harvest when the harvest drops. Look, the greeting of the day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That is the greeting of the day. And as always, this is for entertainment purposes only, man. This is entertainment purposes only. So I got a few questions I want to ask you guys before we get into tonight's episode, right? And let's get into it. So, wait a minute. Let me get rid of these banners. These banners are annoying. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Let's go, man. It's go time, baby. It's go time. So, here's a question I want you guys, right? And this is in reference to the declaration, right? The declaration. Because when you think about it, right? A declaration that costs you nothing was never a declaration. It was a preference, and it was dressed up in bigger words, right? So with that being said, answer this question if you can, right? What did America actually declare 250 years ago, right? And does it match what she declared out loud this week, right? That's our greeting of the day. That's the greeting of the day. That's the brass tacks, man. And that is what is going to get us into tonight's show, man. That's the question of the night, right? So you guys got any ideas, man? Drop it in the chat right now, man. You've seen me before, man. I've probably seen you. Hey, man, I'm world renowned, man. I'm a global citizen. I'm sure you have, bro. I'm sure you're the same, right? I'm sure we've seen each other before, right? Look, when I was thinking about that question hit me real hard, especially at midnight, man, when we was about to air. And I haven't let it go, right? And I had to think about it, man. I was like, man, if a nation could turn 250 years old and still argue about what it actually declared, what makes you, what makes you think your declaration is settled just because you said it out loud one time? Now sit with that, right? Sit with that. Sit with it, right? Contemplate. Oh, you Australian. I haven't been to Australia yet, bro. I'm coming though. I'm coming down to Australia very soon. Trust me on that, man. I got to do some research down there, so I'll be down there, right? Um, yeah, I'll be down there. But look, I want y'all to sit with that, right? And we're gonna answer it, but not yet, man. Just think about it, right? And not for don't think about it longer than 3 minutes. Hold that thought, right? Hold it. And it may and let it get uncomfortable, right? Because the uncomfortable part is where the growth lives, right? So for all you guys who are just now joining us, man, welcome to this is Sunday night, and this is Sitting Down Sundays with the Final Boss. I am the Final Boss, and this is episode number 273, season 4, the rebirth, arc 5, the declaration, right? And this is the lens we are going to be looking through, right? And we're going to be looking through it very thoroughly, man. We're going to be looking at everything thorough, right? And tonight I'm naming something out loud that's already been running for the last couple of episodes. And because you got to give it a name. And without a name attached to it, what does it mean, right? Because Arc 5 opened at episode 271. The declaration starts talking tonight, right? And we're going to talk real loud, right? Real and out loud. Even though the arc itself has already been underway since 271, right? And this is 273. Because sovereignty doesn't wait for a clean introduction. It moves when the moment is right, and the moment is right and is right now, right? Man, hey man, I'm sorry to hear that, bro, man. Many blessings out to you and your family, man. Y'all going through that, man. And prayers for your mom, man, and everything she's going through, bro. I understand, right? I understand, brother. I'm praying for you, right? And this week, the country turned 250, right? Fireworks were everywhere, man. They went up all over the National Mall. There was a parade that was supposed to happen, but the parade got canceled, right? Because it was 1,000 degrees, right? And but they kept the fireworks. They kept the fireworks going, right? And 115 degrees. They kept the fireworks going. And afterwards, it was real smoky, and people were screaming and complaining. And you know, you just can't please people, man, right? You just can't please them. And you know, that's what we're going to be talking about. So here's the loop, right? Here's the loop that I want you guys to just implant and sit with, right? Because the thing that I haven't answered yet, that I will be answering, is what did America actually declare 250 years ago? And does it match what she declared out this week, right? Because those two things are not the same. And the gap between them is exactly where every one of you sitting with me right now is living with in your own life. You declared something once. Maybe it was a graduation. Maybe it was a marriage. Maybe it was sobriety. Maybe it was a business. Maybe it was a book, right? Oh, by the way, I didn't do my admin notes, but if you haven't, go get my book, Go Time, All Aboard the Fired Up Train, the first edition, right? Go get Go Time, All Aboard the Fired Up Train right now. It's out. Go Time 2 is coming out next week. Go Time 2 is coming out next week, man. So go get Go Time 1. And if you haven't seen all our episodes, man, we just dropped 273 episodes. We're on episode 273. If you haven't seen our episodes, man, go to our website at thefinalbosspodcast.com. Thefinalbosspodcast.com. You can see all of our episodes. And you want to get your emails and questions in? Hey, Cam, send me an email, bro. Send me an email at info@thefinalbosspodcast so I can get you and your concerns, man, on the town hall show, man. Get in there, man. Send your concerns, man. We're going to talk about what you're going through, man. We're going to send blessings to you, man, and your mom and her ordeal, bro. Send me an email at info@thefinalbosspodcast.com, man, so I can get you aboard on the town hall, man. The town hall that's coming up, right? So, I just told you about the book, right? I just told you about the book. So, there's a question There's a question, right? And that question is whether what you're doing today still matches the words you said that they would, right? Matches the words that you said that they would, right? Because rebirth was never about becoming new. It was about getting honest about what you already were underneath the noise, right? And that's the whole arc we just closed, man. That was arc 4, the construction. We built the frame, and tonight we're going to test whether the frame can hold a declaration, not a hope, right? We don't do hope over here, not a vibe. We don't do vibes over here, right? It's a declaration. A declaration is a claim you can be held to, right? We're talking about accountability, right? And we're talking about plain and simple, man. No filter and no fine print, man. It is what it is. So here's the answer to the open loop question that I present, right? Because 3 minutes in is what I gave you guys to drop your answers, right? So I'm going to drop it for you because America declared in 1776 that certain truths were self-evident. We're talking about life. We're talking about liberty. We're talking about the pursuit of happiness. And what she declared this week in the actual speeches given on her 250th birthday came out a little darker, right? More political, more divided than any of the unifying language of any past presidents that reached out or reach this particular day, right? And the gap is real. And I'm not here to be a referee in any political space. That's not what we're doing over here, right? This is not what the Final Boss podcast do, right? I'm here to tell you the gap matters because it's the same gap sitting in your own house right now between what you declared and what you're actually living. And that's what we're going to talk about, man. That's episode number 273, the declaration. So get into it. Let's get into it, right? And look, one more thing, right? One more thing. Sitting Down Sundays has always been the reflective close of the week. It's the show where we slow the pace down after Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and all the things we did last week, right? And in those shows, man, we were knocking them out, man. We did our thing last week, right? And tonight we're going to be doing a reflection, which carries extra weight because we're not just closing a week, we're naming an arc out loud that's already in motion, right? Sit with the pace of this episode, man. Let it breathe, right? Let it breathe. And what we're building tonight isn't meant to hype you up and burn you out. That's for the tomorrow's show, or actually tonight's show, motivation, right? That's for Motivation Mondays, right? This show is meant to sit in your chest and still be true a year from now, right? So let's get into it, man. Let's get into it, right? So go time 1, right? We talked about uncomfortable verdicts, and we're going to continue that motion, right? So think about it. If rebirth owes something to declaration, and if you skip this debt, you stay stuck in the building phase forever. We're always talking about metaphors, man. We're always talking about building and construction, right? You can frame a house for years. You can put the studs up, man. You can have the rebar. You can have the foundation poured. You can have all the wirings run, right? But at some point, somebody has to stand in the doorway and say, this is a home now, right? People live here. And that statement is the declaration. And without it, the house just sits there structurally sound, but functionally empty, right? And Go Time, the first book, man, Go Time, all aboard the fired up train. Go Time, tier 1 is about who you be. Yes, who you be. Not what you build, not how you dominate, who you be, right? And that's the first thing you need to do. That's the first thing before anything else gets counted, right? I built that idea because I watched too many operators, too many veterans who were coming off contracts, too many entrepreneurs with a good product, too many people who skip straight to building and dominating before they even declare who they actually were, right? And it collapses eventually. It all collapses, right? Because the structure is wrong. Because it was never resting on identity. It was resting on momentum, and momentum runs out, right? And I resigned, man. You know the story about me leaving the government, right? I don't need to get into that, right? But look, that wasn't a building move, right? That was a declaration. And I didn't quietly transition from that, right? I stood in that doorway of that career and said out loud that this chapter is now closed and the next one starts on my own terms, right? Same with walking across the stage when I just graduated with my MBA, right? Same with stepping into the doctoral program, right? Every one of those was a declaration before it was even paperwork. The paperwork came afterward. The declaration came first. And here's the uncomfortable verdict that I want to talk about tonight, right? And I want the smarts to sit with this one, especially, right? Because most people wait for permission to declare, right? They wait for the degree, they wait for the title, they wait for the number, the applause, they wait for saying out loud who they are, right? But that's backwards, man. That's backwards. Listen, the declaration has to come first. You have to declare what and what you are, who, what you are, who, what, and whatever you are, right? You have to do it first. Make the declaration first, right? So the achievement, it means nothing when it lands if you don't declare, right? You'll hold the trophy and still feel like a fraud because you never declared yourself worthy of it, right? You just hoped, you just hoped that the trophy would be the declaring for you, but it won't and it can't. Only you can do that, man. That's part of the work, right? And to my final bosses, this is your art, right? The declaration isn't a slogan I'm hanging on for the season, right? It's an instruction. Say the thing before you have the proof. Say who you are before the resume backs it up. That's not arrogance, good people. That's just how building anything really works. A house needs a name on the door before the family even moves in. You, my friends, are no different, right? You are no different, right? And to my motivators, here's your homework walking into this arc, right? Write down the declaration tonight, right? One sentence, not a goal, not a resolution, a declaration. Who you are. State it as a fact, right? Not as hope. Then live in it tomorrow, right? Like it's already true because it is, right? You just haven't caught up with it yet. I always say my success is in the future and I have to catch up to my future, right? That's what I need you guys to do, right? Declare it, right? So it's like manifestation, right? But we're talking about science, right? So rebirth built the frame, declaration puts a name on the door. That's the sequence, right? That's the arc. And that's why episode 273 is where the declaration actually starts saying what it really means. Because even though the arcs carry this name since episode 271, and we're two episodes in, this is the declaration. And I want you to think about the guardsmen, man. I want to think about the guardsmen and the military people that I've served with, right? Alongside and the Fed civilians that I've worked with, right? The good operators, the discipline, man. We're talking about these people who are capable of running things most people never get to see. A lot of them are still waiting for the right moment to declare what comes after the uniform. And I understand the wait. I lived in it longer than I should have, right? But I want every veteran listening tonight to hear this directly. I want you to hear this, right? Listen. Your service built the frame of who you became. It was never supposed to be the whole house. What you do with the frame is still yours to declare, and no retirement ceremony is going to declare it for you. Hey, guys, listen, man. Listen, before we go any further, look, like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe, right? Hey, Cam, man, do me a favor, bro. Share it with at least 3 people, man. You in Australia? I would love to come down to Australia, man, and talk to people down there, man. Talk to the entire continent, man. I could do a whole Australian tour, bro. That's the type of time I'm on, man. Listen, share with at least 3 people who you think needs this information, man. Don't gatekeep people. Like, share, subscribe, right? Now, let's go back to the parade for a second that didn't happen. And it didn't happen, although they told you it would, but it didn't, right? It was 115 degrees in Washington, D.C., and that's without the humidity, right? Organizers canceled the Independence Day parade Friday late that night, right? It was a safety call, the heat warning. It was, you name it, they were talking about it, right? But the fireworks stayed on schedule. It was the same night, same city, same holiday, right? But one event got pulled and one got protected. Now think about what that says about the priority under pressure. A parade is a display. people marching, bands playing, a show of movement designed to be watched from the sidewalk, right? Designed to be watched from mainstream media or social networks, right? But get this, a fireworks display is also a show, right? It's also a show, but it's the closing statement, right? Not the beginning of the event. It's supposed to be the closer. It's the thing that lights up the sky after everything else is done. The moment that says we made it through the day, and here's the proof. Now look up in the sky and start celebrating, right? When those conditions get hostile, and they will, you don't get to protect everything you built. You have to make a call about what gets cut and what gets guarded no matter what, right? And that's not weakness, people. That's command. The organizers in DC didn't cancel the whole holiday. They made a hard, specific cut and protected peace. They protected the piece that mattered most, the piece that closes the night with the fire in the sky, right? And my warriors, I need you to hear this one directly because you're going to hit conditions this year that force you to cancel something you planned, a launch, a partnership, a relationship, a version of yourself you were trying to march down Main Street for everyone to see, right? But canceling that thing is not failure. Failure is canceling everything, including the fire at the end. You have to protect the end, right? Protect the fireworks, whatever that is for you. The thing that proves you made it through, guard that piece no matter what, no matter what gets cut around it, right? And this is also a lesson and a rule we run on the Final Boss podcast, right? Hey, gang, what's going on, Broken? I see you, man. Thank you for joining us, right? This is what we run on this podcast, right? When episode 264 got canceled on its original date, we didn't erase it. The episode never transferred forward and aired on the next live show, right? Nothing looks or gets lost around here. It gets rescheduled and sometimes renamed, but never erased, right? DC didn't erase Independence Day this week either. They rescheduled the risk and kept the fireworks exactly where they belong, right? Now, there's a plain version, right? There's a plain version if you new to the show, right? Because when life gets too hot to run the full program you planned, don't panic and shut it all down. You ask yourself one question. What's my fireworks, right? What's the one thing that has to happen no matter what, even if everything else gets canceled around it, right? And then you have to answer that question. You have to protect it, right? And you'll come out on the other side of any heat wave still standing on what matters, right? 10 toes down, make it happen, right? And look, I'm gonna give you mine so you already know, man. We talk about examples, right? And I'm not asking you guys to do anything I haven't already done before or for myself, right? What's up, Zero? I see you. Thank you for joining us, right? Look, man, when the heat got turned up on me this year, right? After 23 years of comfortable structure, walking away all at once, a company to stand up from nothing, a lot on the calendar, man. Even a lot on the calendar right now, man. I got Go Time 2 that's about to drop this week, right? I could have canceled all of it and called it wisdom. I canceled the parade instead. I slowed the public rollout of some projects. Some things I built stayed quiet on purpose, but the fireworks never got touched, right? The mission, the podcast hitting live every single week, 5 times a week at 9 p.m. Eastern time. They never stopped once, right? You have to know your fireworks before the heat arrives, not during it, right? So, look, the next day, which was July 5th was important, right? And July 5th matters more than people know, right? And it's not an accident that we were supposed to have this show on July 5th because in history, right? In 1852, Frederick Douglass stood up in Rochester, New York, and delivered what became one of the most piercing speeches against slavery in this country has ever heard. And he did it deliberately on July 5th, not July 4th, one day late on purpose, right? So Douglass, right, wasn't confused about the calendar. He chose the date after Independence Day specifically because he wanted to contrast the sting. Celebrate liberty on the 4th, right? Sure, he said, right? But come back tomorrow and let's talk about who that liberty actually belonged to and who it let out in chains, right? And that's not accident of scheduling. That's a declaration that was made on purpose. In the room, nobody wanted him in. On the day, nobody had expected him to speak, right? Listen, what'd you say? What'd you say, broken? Let me see. Higher strength. Hey, thanks, bro. Hit me up, man. Shoot me an email, broken at info@thefinalbosspodcast.com so we can have this conversation, man. Shoot me an email, brother. Right? And you know, that's the move. I want the Final Boss community, Final Boss journey, Final Boss nation, Final Boss family to study tonight, right? A real declaration that wasn't, or I should say, that doesn't wait for the room to be comfortable. I don't need you guys to be comfortable. Don't be comfortable, be uncomfortable, right? It doesn't wait for the applause line or the convention's anniversary, or the convenient anniversary, I should say, right? Douglass could have waited for a friendlier month, a friendlier crowd. He didn't. He spoke one day after the party ended, when the hangover was sitting in and nobody wanted to hear it, because that's exactly when the words would have landed lawless, right? Or landed hardest. Look, and you know what? There's always a cost confession, man. There's always a cost confession, right? And here's cost confession time, right? And I'm naming a real number because that's the deal that we do on this show. No hiding behind vague talk, man. When I left the federal government, I walked away from a pension and trajectory worth well over $2 million in lifetime value, right? If I had written it out to even the full retirement, $2 million, right? That's the actual cost of declaring who I am now instead of who the paycheck said I was for decades, right? It's not telling you. And look, man, I'm not telling you that for vanity or sympathy. I'm just telling you because the declarations cost something real, and it has. And if yours hasn't cost you anything yet, you probably haven't made one, right? You made a wish, not a declaration. Listen, Douglass paid a cost too. Standing in that room, reputational cost, safety cost, the cost of being the uncomfortable voice at a celebration that wanted no discomfort at all. He paid it anyway because the declaration was worth more than the comfort. That's the standard, right? Not reckless, not martyrdom for its own sake, just a clear-eyed willingness to pay the truth you're standing in, right? So here's tonight's let's talk about the brass tacks again, right? Because I want you to write this one down. I want you to write this brass tacks down, right? And I want you to post it, man. Put it on your mirror or something. Quote it out. Put it in a book, man. Record it. Put it on your phone. I need you to hear me loud and clear on tonight's brass tacks, right? And here's the brass tacks again, right? A declaration that costs you nothing was never a declaration. It was a preference dressed up in bigger words, right? Now sit with that. Sit with that, man. Sit with that, because we're not done with Douglass yet, and we're not done with the brass tacks either. But we are done being comfortable, right? It's time to get uncomfortable, right? So, and I want to be precise. I want to be precise about my own record here too, right? Because precision is part of the standard I'm holding myself to on this show, right? I deployed in OEF, I deployed in OIF, right? OIF and OEF, right? And there was another deployment, right? And every rotation, I've seen people who like to round up things for mentally for a cleaner sounding story, right? 3-4, right? 3-4 specifically, OEF 3-4, right? And I was at the Pentagon on 9/11, right? And I'm going to bring that exact number up because a declaration built on rounded, softened facts isn't a declaration anymore. It's a story you tell yourself. You get your own facts exactly before you ever put them in front of a room, right? Before you even put them in front of a room. Look, you have to declare the noise, right? The world did not go quiet this week to let America have a birthday in peace, and that's what matters, right? While the fireworks are going up over the mall, a massive multi-day funeral was underway overseas for a slain foreign leader with crowds chanting for revenge in the streets. A cargo ship reported being attacked in the Red Sea the same week. Two heads of state and on the opposing sides of the active war both got phone calls from the American president on the same holiday, right? And look, I'm not here to litigate any of that political space, right? And this show has never been political and there's never been a place for that, right? So we don't do that over here. What I want you to notice is the timing because declarations don't get made in quiet rooms with soft lighting and everybody nodding along. They get made in exactly this kind of noise. Funerals and shipping attacks and phone calls happening in parallel, the whole world talking over itself all at once, right? And that's actually good news for you, right? Because sitting at home, listening to this episode right now, you've been waiting for the noise to die down before you make a move, waiting for the market to settle, waiting for family drama to resolve, waiting for the news cycles to come, and all this, right? Before you declare what you're building next. I need you guys to stop waiting. The noise is not going to die down. It never does. It never has. Not even once. And it's going to start now and it's not going to start now just because you need a quiet moment to feel brave. Look, smarts, here's something I want you guys to understand, right? And this is for my smarts in the community specifically, right? The sharpest operators don't wait for stable conditions to take a position. They take position because conditions are unstable, because clarity and chaos is the whole advantage. And if everyone else is confused and you're already clear, you're already ahead. Listen, and that's not luck. That's a call made before the storm, not during it, right? And look, everything that I've ever built, including the things I've built this year, right? The doctoral work, the company, the apps, all of it, right? Got declared and started during periods of maximum noise. My life is noisy, right? On every aspect, right? Not minimum noise, right? Absolutely, absolutely, Scale. Appreciate you for saying that, man. Listen, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Scale said, remember when your friends warn you not to give into peer pressure and you don't technically, but you did? Listen, until we meet again, absolutely, right? Absolutely, man. That's what I'm talking about, right? Because look, we have to stay uncomfortable. And here's the uncomfortable verdict to close out um 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 this part of the conversation, right? If you're still waiting for calm before you commit to who you are not being patient. You are being scared, right? And you're dressed up in fear in a patient costume that feels acceptable for everybody who's watching, right? Including yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, I need you to take that costume off. Here, take the costume off, man. It's time to go. It's go time, right? Look, the World Cup that's playing out right now and is playing out parallel this week. England grinding through the knockout rounds, Brazil and Norway going toe to toe, a whole planet's attention split between a global tournament and a global funeral and a global anniversary, all at the same damn time. And nobody paused the tournament to wait for the news to calm down. The players declared themselves ready and stepped on the pitch. Regardless, that's the standard. That the match doesn't wait for peace, and neither does your declaration. And look, I'll tell you something practical, man. Look, when I look back at everything, every big move I've made this year, I can't find one that happened during a calm stretch, right? And there wasn't. There wasn't a calm stretch at all, any period, right? And it never is. If you're waiting for one to show up before you say what you're building, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. And I need you to stop waiting. I need you to get down, get greasy, get dirty, and go balls deep in whatever you're trying to do, man. Pause, right? And you'll call that waiting patience the whole time. But it isn't patience. It's just fear with better manners, right? So, look, I know I've said a lot, man. I know I've said a lot, but look, man, I want us to build a bridge between everything we've said, right? Because arc 5 itself, because sitting down is a reflection day, right? We still need a spine to hang on to, right? Because the rebirth has been the lens for the entire season 4, right? Arc 1 was the origin. Arc 2 and Arc 3 built foundation and tested it under fire. Arc 4 was the construction, raising the frame, plank by plank, brick by brick, mortar by mortar, wall by wall, right? But the declaration is what happens when the building has gone far enough that staying quiet starts to feel dishonest, right? You can only frame a house so long before people start asking what it's for. At some point, you stand in the finished doorway, dust still in the air, and say out loud what this thing is going to be used for. Arc 5 opened 2 episodes ago, right? At episode 271. And that's exactly where we are. And that's exactly why episode 273, right here, right now, gets to claim the moment this arc actually opens for in the room, even though it opened up on the calendar 2 days ago or 2 episodes ago, right? Because numbers on a calendar don't get to dictate when the truth is ready to be spoken. And that's the same rule episode number 264 taught us, just running in a different direction this time, right? 271 and 272 carried the label. Tonight carries the weight, right? We talked about bearing weight on this show, man. We're talking about the construction. A show can open up officially and still not say what it means until a few episodes later, once the moment actually arrives to say it. And this is rebirth, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It isn't a one-time event. It's a question you keep asking yourself at every turn. Does this still deserve to be called reborn? Or has it quietly slid back into old habits wearing new language? Listen, a declaration can't be faked for long because a declaration invites people to check it against your actual behavior. So you have to declare it to become, right? It become who you be, right? And that's the premise of Go Time All Aboard the Fired Up Train. Go get it. It's going to help you. It's going to help you do whatever you're trying to do by helping you declare who you be, right? And that's the declaration. And look, that's the dare I'm issuing tonight, right? To myself first, right? Because we're on this journey together. And to every one of you listening right now, listening or watching, because the declaration art is standing invitation for anyone in this community to hold me to whatever I say out loud from this point forward. Same invitation goes to you, right? Declare something tonight out loud to somebody who will remember you said it, right? And give them permission to call you out on it later. That's what makes it real instead of just words in a journal, right? That nobody gets a chance to read. And this is why I lock arc boundaries, right, in advance instead of making them up as we go. Because arc 1 ran episodes 201 through 208. Arc 2 was 209 through 216. Arc 3 was 217 through 239, right? And arc 4 is 240 through 271, right? Locking those numbers ahead of time is its own small declaration. A bet placed on structure before I knew what would fill it. Today proves the bet was sound because the content found its way to the right moment, even a couple episodes into the arc instead of right at its opening bell, right? And that's the whole point of building. That's the whole point of building a structure ahead of time instead of winging it. You're not locking yourself into a box. You're giving yourself something solid enough that when the real moment shows up, whether it's the episode 1 of an arc or episode 3 of an arc, you got somewhere to put it instead of losing it to the next distraction. You need to build your own structure the same way. Decide your seasons and your boundaries ahead of time. Then let the actual moments fill them in as they come on your very own timeline, right? Now, let's talk about what actually makes a declaration real. Because I don't do vague motivation on this show, man, without giving you something you can use, man. Listen, three things have to be true. And if one's missing, what you've got is a wish dressed up in bigger words, right? And here's the first thing. Here's the first thing, right? First, it has to be specific. And it has to be something like, I'm going to do better. That isn't a declaration. That's fog, right? It's too wide open, right? Look, I'm the founder who ships the work by end of the month, regardless of how I feel that day. That, my friends, is a declaration because somebody can check it. If nobody could even prove you, if they can't prove you wrong, you didn't declare anything. You just talked out loud, right? And here's the second thing, right? Somebody else has to hear it, right? A declaration you only say to yourself at 2 a.m. doesn't count the same way. That's why Douglass stood in front of a crowd instead of writing it in a private journal. That's why I'm saying this to you right now, of just thinking it in my own house, in my own head, right? Because somebody hearing you say it is what turns a private hope into something you're actually on the hook for, right? And then third, right? It has to cost you something. And we already talked about this because it belongs here too, right? If a declaration doesn't require you to give something up, some time, some comfort, maybe a paycheck, maybe an old version of yourself, it's not real. It's decoration. That $2 million number from earlier, that was my cost. You need to find yours, right? Every real declaration has a receipt somewhere. And my final bosses, I need you to run your own declaration through those three before you say it out loud, right? It is specific enough, or has to be specific enough, to be proven wrong. Does somebody know you said it? Did it cost you anything? If you can say yes to all three, you're not hoping anymore. You've got something solid to build on top of, right? A plain version. Here's a plain version one more time, though, right? Because I know some of you may be driving right now, right? And you're thinking, and you say exactly what you mean, right? You tell somebody who'll remember, but you have to make sure it costs you something real. And that's the whole test. Run it before you post something, before you say it to your spouse, before you write it in front of a new notebook or on your cell or your tablet, right? If it survives, build on it. If it doesn't, it's not ready yet. And that's fine too. It's good to be and better to know now than to build a year of your life on top of a wish. Look, one more thing before we move on, man. One more thing before we move on, right? Nobody gets all three of these right on the first try, right? Don't pressure yourself. And I don't want you thinking you have to nail it perfectly, right? I've said things out loud that turned out to be vague, told the wrong person, cost me less than I thought it would. That's fine. You have to adjust like I did, right? You try again and again and again, and you try again next week, right? And specifically, you do it even better, right? And then you have a better witness, right? Because, and there's the real cost attached. And this isn't a one-time test you pass or fail. It's something you keep doing over and over again, right? Until saying what you mean becomes the normal way you talk instead of the exception, right? Look, the things that I've been working on right now, even going through the doctoral process, dropping my second book, I've written 14 white papers, 4 books, right? All these things, man, all these things I've built, right? And I've said it out loud before any of them even got finished, right? And I want to tell you why, plain and simple. Look, it's not about a lecture, right? Because you don't wait for the finished version to give something a name. A ship gets its name painted on the bow before the engines are even installed. The name isn't claiming a thing. when it's done, right? It's claiming the thing as a destination. So everybody building it, including you, knows what they're building toward, right? I named it energy work before every piece was even solved. I named the consciousness work before the writing was even anywhere close to being finished. I named the vetting work before the systems behind it were fully built out. Not because I had it all figured out, but because the name is what held each one of those things together while the actual work caught up to it, right? Am I smart? Look, if you're the type who wants every variable solved before you will commit to a direction, I need you to hear this, right? The name comes before the solution, not after. Name it before it's solved. Let the name be the container the solution grows into, right? And think about it this way. If you need a plainer picture, hear me out, right? Nobody thinks it's premature or dishonest to name a ship early. They understand the name is doing a different job than the steel is going in, right? Your declaration does the same job for your life that the name does for the ship. It's not claiming the thing is finished, it's claiming a destination. And to my motivators, look, I want you carrying this into this week, right? I want you to carry this into this week, right? Whatever you're pouring encouragement into right now, the struggling team member, a kid finding their footing, a friend rebuilding after a hard year, give them the name before you have proof the thing will work out. You're becoming someone who finishes what they start, lands differently, then I hope things work out for you, right? Plant those seeds. Naming a destination itself is a form of support, maybe the realest kind out there, right? And I'll be straight with you. Right? Because and this is about being uncomfortable. Because uncomfortable, and what that actually feels like in real time, saying a name out loud before you've earned it feels like lying for the first couple of weeks, right? Trust me, I know. Dr. AI, man, I'm not, look, I know, right? It isn't. It's just early. The discomfort fades the moment you start putting in the work that matches the name. And it fades faster the more consistently you show up for it. Give yourself that runway, right? These planes need to be taken off, right? Nobody grows into a name overnight. You think Ali became the greatest boxing heavyweight champion there was? He said it before the first fight, right? Nobody who's ever built anything real expected it to be what it is without naming, right? Look, a declaration you can make about yourself is worthless if you say it in the wrong room. Frederick Douglass knew that, right? He picked the date after the holiday on purpose when the crowd's guard was down enough to actually hear something uncomfortable. That wasn't by accident. That was him choosing his room before he ever opened his mouth. And I want you to be doing the same thing this week. Before you declare anything big or small, ask who's actually listening. Who's going to hold it to you in the next 6 months? Who's going to try to talk you out of it because your growth makes them uncomfortable? That's not paranoia. That's just knowing who's earned a seat in the room before you even hand them a one word, right? And my warriors, right? Warriors, this one's yours specifically, right? Because you've been burned before. You said something real to somebody who used it against you later. They turned your own words into ammunition. That doesn't mean stop declaring. It means choose your witnesses the way you will choose who guards your six, right? Not everyone has earned the right to hear your declaration before it's proven. Some people only get to hear it after, when the receipts are already in and there's nothing left for them to twist, right? Here's a simple check I need you to run, right? And this is something I run on myself, right? I declare anything publicly, right? Whether it's on this podcast or in a conversation that matters to me, right? Talking to the people I care about. You have to ask, does this person benefit if I succeed? Or do they quietly benefit if I fail? Have they shown up when the cost them nothing to disappear instead, right? Would I trust them with this messy, unfinished version of this, not just the polished one? If the room passes, speak freely. If it doesn't, keep building in a private, low level a little longer until you find a room that does. And that's not overthinking it, people. That's just respecting how much a real declaration is going to cost you if you make it to the wrong people or give it to the wrong people. Choose the room on purpose, the same way Douglas chose his, right? Same way Douglas chose his. Now, there's a difference between staying quiet out of fear and staying quiet out of strategy. And it's worth knowing which one you're actually doing, right? Because fear keeps you quiet everywhere with everybody forever, right? Strategy keeps you quiet in the wrong rooms while you're actively looking for the right one. If you're still looking, keep looking. Just don't confuse the search for a good room with permission to never speak at all, right? To never speak at all. And listen, if you're sharing information about projects that you're working on, make sure you're protected, man. Get those NDAs together, right? Get those get those NDAs together, right? Get them together. Pass them out like candy, right? Now let's take let's take a break, right? Let's take a breather, right? Because this show has always been the one where we slow down, right? And we let the week land in the body instead of just the mind, right? 7 segments deep into the declaration of a heavy episode. And I want to check in on how you guys feeling. How is this actually sitting with you, right? Not just whether you're keeping up, man. Let me know in the comments, man. Let me know in the chat, right? Drop it in the chat, right? Because declaration work is heavy work. It's not the dopamine hit of a Motivation Monday. It's not the tactical download of a Tech Tuesday. It's not the deep dive of Merger Wednesday. It's slower, quieter, and honestly, it can sit uncomfortable in your choice for a few days after you hear something like this, right? But that's normal. That's the work doing what it's supposed to do. A declaration that lands easy and feels good immediately probably wasn't specific enough, right? Wasn't costly enough, wasn't witnessed enough, right? The ones that actually change your life tend to sit a little heavy before they settle into something you can stand on. And I want to be honest about my own week also, right? Because this week, right? Because this show only works if I'm actually sitting down and being real with you in the realest possible way, not performing, right? And this has been a heavy season, man. Listen, it's been heavy. It's been heavy, nonstop, right? And it's about to even get even heavier. Dropping the book, my second book, going into my doctoral program in a month, right? We're talking about, man, it's going to be heavy. Look, I got a company that I'm standing up, right? I got an app that I'm getting ready to launch. Man, look, the podcast doesn't take any time off, right? And look, that's a lot happening at once. And tonight's declaration is partially me making sure I don't quietly turn all the busyness into an excuse to avoid saying anything real, right? Motivator, listen up. If you're in a heavy season 2, I'm not telling you to push through it by pretending it's light. I'm telling you to declare inside the heaviness anyway. Douglas didn't wait for slavery to end before he made his declaration. He made it in the middle of the worst of it, because waiting for lighter conditions is its own kind of surrender. Breathe now. Breathe here with me, right? Breathe, right? And if you need a physical reset, take one slow breath through the nose, hold it for a count 4, and let it out slow. Then it went in, right? Do that once and do it right now, whether you're listening or not, right? This show has always given you the permission to actually pause instead of just talking about pausing. And I mean that literally tonight, right? Because I've noticed something about heavy seasons over my 23 years of service, and now over a year of building outside of it. The heaviness itself is rarely the problem. The problem is treating the heaviness as a sign you picked the wrong path, when most of the time it just means you're carrying something that actually matters. Light things don't weigh on you. A declaration you don't really mean doesn't keep you up at night. If tonight's episode is sitting heavy right now, that's not a warning sign. That's a confirmation you picked up something real. Give yourself permission tonight to just sit in the weight of that for a minute instead of rushing in to fix it or explain it, right? You don't owe anybody a quick recovery from something that's actually landing or something that you're actually going through, right? I need you to feel it tonight, embrace it, and move on it tomorrow. That's the rhythm this show has always run on. And that's the rhythm I want you carrying on for the rest of the week, right? For the rest of the week. Now, look, I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over probably like 10 minutes, man. So stay with me, right? I want to be clear about something before we go any further, because I don't want anybody walking away from this episode thinking I'm telling you to skip building and just talk a big game. That's not the message. And that's not the message of this show, right? Because a declaration without construction behind it is exactly what this community has watched 1,000 influencers do. We're talking about big words, no receipts, no follow through, gone in 6 months. And when the algorithm moves on to somebody else's big words, that's what Arc 5 is about. The declaration only means something because the construction came directly before it. You earn the right to declare by having already built something real underneath, right? Construction is the private work done in rooms nobody's watching. Drafts getting revised at 11 p.m. after everyone else in the house is asleep. Declaration is the public work, standing in front of a crowd or a camera on a Sunday night audience, putting your name on whatever the private work is produced. Both required. Both of those things are required. Neither replaces the other. Skip construction and your declaration is hollow. Skip declaration and your construction stays invisible. Easily and quietly abandoned when nobody's watching to notice you stopped. Final bosses, here's your assignment on top of the one I gave you guys earlier, right? You already wrote your declaration sentence. Now, write down next to it the actual work you've done that earns you the right to say it out loud. If that second list is empty, you're not ready to declare yet. You're ready to go build for a while first, right? And there's no shame in that. Most of us are in a building phase on at least one part of our life at any given moment, at any given time. Just be honest about which phrase you're actually in, right? And look, I'll go first, man, because I accept the responsibility and accountability of it, right? Because I'm not holding you to anything. I'm not holding on to myself, right? My own work isn't finished either. The dissertation isn't done. The app isn't done. The other 10 books aren't done. Parts of the company are still being stood up behind the scenes. These things are unglamorous. I don't have an audience, right? And mostly invisible to anybody outside of the podcast. That's construction. And it's ongoing. A declaration doesn't require your whole life to be finished. It requires you to be honest about which pieces are declared and which pieces are still being built, without blurring the two together to look further along than you actually are. And that's the honest truth, man. That's the honesty. And it hits harder than it sounds because the temptation to round up is everywhere, right? Everybody's tempted to say, almost done, right? When the real answer is barely started. And I get it, right? I catch myself doing it sometimes. The fix is simple, even if it's not easy. Before you tell somebody where you're at, ask yourself if you're describing the actual state of things or the version that sounds better out loud. Say the actual state every single time. That's what keeps a declaration honest instead of just being impressive, right? Now, stay with me. Stay with me. Yep, stay with me. Right, stay with me because I just need 10 minutes. I'm gonna go over 10 minutes. Right. Look, legacy. Legacy is part of the Declaration. And I want to talk about legacy for a minute, right? Because that's what the Declaration arc is protecting underneath everything else or everything else we've covered, right? A declaration is how you make sure the people who come after you don't have to guess what you stood for. Construction can be pieced together from evidence after the fact. Sure, right? Sure. But a declaration moves the guesswork. It's you on record telling the future exactly what this all was, right? While you're still here, and you need to say it out clearly, right? And that's the part of why the book project matters so much to me right now, right? It's not just documentation of what got built, it's declaration, chapter by chapter, of what it meant while it was happening, written by the person who lived in it instead of somebody guessing at it later. I'd rather over declare while I'm alive to clarify it than leave a pile of unexplained work behind for somebody else to misread after I'm gone. And that's the same instinct behind naming my projects formally instead of letting them stay informal ideas forever. Names on a record attached to a specific person who's claiming them while he's still around to defend, revise, or correct the claim if the evidence demands it. Look, that's not ego, people. Ego hides from scrutiny. This is the opposite of that, right? It's stepping into the scrutiny on purpose because staying anonymous and vague until it's safely finished isn't humility either. It's just a slower, quieter form of avoidance. Douglass understood this better than almost anyone in American history. He didn't just live through slavery um he just didn't live through the slavery, right? He declared out loud, repeatedly, exactly what it meant while it was happening. So nobody 100 years later could pretend the meaning was unclear. That's legacy work. Not hoping people remember you right, declaring loud enough that misremembering becomes hard too, right? Smart, final bosses, motivators, warriors, all four of you. This one's for everybody at once. Whatever you're building right now, ask yourself if you're also saying it clearly enough that the people who matter to you won't have to guess what it meant later. Construction fades if nobody explains it. Declaration is the explanation delivered while you're still around to make sure it lands right. Think about how many family stories get lost simply because nobody sat down and said what mattered while they had the chance, right? What up, what up, what up, Keisha? I see you. Thank you for joining us. We're almost done. Thank you for joining us, right? Look, boxes in the garage, nobody sorts through until after a funeral. None of that explains itself. It just sits there waiting for somebody to guess. And guesses are usually wrong or at best incomplete. I don't want the people who matter to me guessing at what any of this was for. I need them to hear it as I say it right now. And I say it clearly with clarity, right? And I need to say it while you're still here to correct the record if anybody or somebody gets it wrong. And that's the whole reason I keep saying things out loud on this show instead of waiting until they're perfect and polished. Perfect and polished usually means safe. Safe usually means it doesn't say much. I'd rather leave behind a record that's a little rough around the edges, but completely honest about what I meant, than a record that sounds impressive, but leaves everybody guessing later. And guessing is what happens to people who stayed quiet. Don't stay quiet, people. Stay. What's going? You just got here. I know, man. I started an hour ago. We're a little bit over. I'm closing out in a few minutes, right? But I need you back on the show tonight at 9 p.m. Keisha, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're doing Motivation Mondays. I need you there, right? Now listen, let's get practical, right? Let's get practical. Let's bring this back down to something practical before we close, right? Because a heavy episode like this one can float away from you if you don't ground it, right? And here's exactly what I want you to be doing this week, concretely, right? Starting tonight. Oh, you know what? No, starting immediately after this episode, right? Immediately after this episode. And this is it. Listen, step one, write your declaration sentence. We've been building toward this all episode, right? One sentence, present tense, no hedging. No, I'm going to try, right? Or hope to do so. No, a statement of fact about who you are. State it like it's already true. Because the moment you say it clearly, it starts becoming true through your actions, right? Don't rush past this because it sounds simple, right? Most people spend more time picking a caption for a photo than deciding what sentence they're willing to be held to for the next year. Give it the time it deserves. Say it out loud in an empty room first if you need to. Hear how it sounds coming out of your own mouth before you say it to a witness. Then step two, right? I need you to name one witness, right? Someone you're going to tell that specific sentence to. And I need you to do this week, this week, right? Do it out loud, by voice or in person, not buried in a text they might not read, right? Or they might not read carefully. Give them permission to bring it back up in a month and ask how it's going. And then there's step three, right? Name the cost, right? What this declaration is going to require you to give up. Is it time? Is it comfort? Is it an older version of yourself that used to feel safe? Write the cost down next to the sentence. If you can't name a real cost, go back to step one and make it more specific until a real cost shows up. It has to have a cost, man. Anything worth doing and worth having has a cost, right? Then step four, right? Tell me. Comment on this episode, right? Comment in the chat, right? Comment, man. Let us know, right? Tag me at the Final Boss Podcast, right? Tag Turbo the CEO and drop your one sentence declaration in the replies. I'm reading every one of them this week, right? Episode 273 doesn't just talk about declarations, it's collecting them publicly from this exact community as the moment this art got named out loud, because we're on this journey together, right? And don't overthink the wording, right? I'd rather you do like a rough draft or something, right? And be honest and make the sentence honest from what it is. It doesn't have to be polished, right? Right? Have a safe one that I'd rather you have a safe one that took 3 days to for you to work through than something meaningless, right? Look, I am the person who finishes what I start, starting with the same thing sitting on my desk right now. Or it could say, I am the parent my kids can point to as proof that starting over is possible, right? It doesn't have to be eloquent. It could be any of those examples, right? But it has to be true. It has to be specific. And it has to be something you're willing to let this community hold on to, right? Because accountability matters. And if you're sitting there right now telling yourself you'll do this later, or tonight after motivation, or tomorrow morning, or whenever things calm down, I want you to notice that thought, and I want you to understand that thought for what it is. It's the same waiting for quiet instinct we already talked about earlier in the episode. Don't wait for later. Write the sentence now before we close. You got 2 more minutes. And that's what I'm giving you, man. Drop it, man. Drop it right now, right? Drop it right now. And look, before we close, I want you to know this show always sends you out with somewhere to go, right? Not just something to feel. If tonight's episode is your first time here, Well, then welcome, right? I need you to go back to episode number 240 to hear Arc 4, the construction kickoff properly, and you'll understand exactly what frame we're testing tonight. Go back further to episode 201, and I want you to get the full season 4 origin story, right? And you can get all of that on our website at www.thefinalbosspodcast.com, right? Everything else, the books, ongoing updates on where I'm heading next, all of it funnels through the usual hub at Dwight-Turbodillard.com, right? And that's where you get on the list for the next book the moment it drops. That's where the whole catalog sits in one place instead of being scattered across 5 different platforms. Man, I built the site as its own kind of declaration too, right? And if I'm honest, it went live in April specifically so there'd be an anchorage place on record, right? Holding everything I do accountable to the same standard at once, not a standard feed where the good version of the story gets told on one platform and the messier truth quietly gets left off another. You're talking about one hub, one record. Go check it out for yourself if you haven't, right? And if you have, go check whether the version of me on that site still matches the version talking to you guys right now, right? And that's a fair question to ask. And I want you to be asking it, right? That's the assessment I want you guys to have. Because we're doing this together, right? We're doing this together, man. I told you we're on this journey together, right? Final Boss family, Final Boss community, Final Boss nation, right? All together, right? And one more research before we close the segment out tonight, right? Because if tonight's cost confession or brass tacks quote hits you somewhere real, like, share, subscribe, and sit with it before you scroll to the next thing. Don't immediately drown it in the next piece of content. Sunday nights are built for sitting, being reflective. And that's the whole name of the show. Look, let one thing land fully before you go looking for the next, right? And if you're brand new to the community entirely, fine. You found this episode through a share or an algorithm, and you have no idea who I am. Here's the short version so you're not lost for the rest of the night, right? Look, I'm the Final Boss, also known as Turbo the CEO. Right? I'm a combat veteran, right? Pentagon 9/11 survivor, right? Founder of an IT company, author, right? I'm running this podcast 5 times a week, every week, right? No exception. And you don't need the whole story, but I just needed to give that to you so you will know, so you can show up again on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right? At 9 p.m. No exceptions, no persona, just the real thing. And look, one last resource, man. One last resource. And look, it's not a link, it's a habit. If you want to keep this arc alive past tonight, go back through your own week and notice every place you catch yourself hedging about I'm trying to, I hope to, we'll see, right? Those are hedgings. Those are the spots where a declaration is trying to happen and you're talking yourself out of it. You don't need a whole website for that. You just need to catch it in real time and say the harder, plainer version instead, right? Now, here we are, closing out, right? Closing out. And I want to leave you with the full circle back to where we opened. A nation turned 250 years old 2 nights ago. And the country is still arguing about what it actually declared versus what it actually is living, right? That gap isn't going away by itself. Not for a country and not for a person. The only thing that closes it is doing the work we just spent an hour or so doing. And we've been doing it together. Naming the declaration specifically, finding a witness, holding or counting the real costs, and then showing up tomorrow and living like it's already true, right? Episode 273 is where Arc 5, the declaration inside of season 4, the rebirth, actually starts, meaning what its name says. The arc opened numerically 2 episodes ago at 271. But you were here when it got real on this day, right? At this time, right? On purpose. Same as Frederick Douglass, who chose on purpose 174 years ago. That's not a coincidence. I'm claiming lightly. That's a pattern I'm pointing at deliberately, because patterns like that are exactly how you know a declaration is real instead of convenient. And to my smart strategizing, your next move in silence, declare it before the plan is finished. Let the name hold the frame while the details catch up. And to my final bosses building something bigger than yourselves, run the declaration through the 3 checks: specific, witnessed, costly, before you call it real. And to my motivators carrying other people through their own heavy seasons, remember, you can't give somebody a declaration you haven't first made to yourself. To the warriors who got burned during being in the wrong room, right? Choose who gets to hear this one and let the receipts do the talking before anybody else. And here's my brass tacks one more time to send us off, right? Look, a declaration costs you nothing was never a declaration. It was a preference dressed up in bigger words. Now go pay the cost this week. I'll see you again next Monday for Motivate. I'll see you again, not next Monday, this Monday, tonight for Motivation Monday, right? And then I'll see you again on Sunday. But remember, there's shows in between, right? Look, this and to Keisha, thank you for joining us. And be here again, Keisha, tonight at 9 p.m. for Motivation Monday, right? And before we go, before I close out the mic, look, one more last piece of business, right? Drop your declaration sentence in the comments. Tag it. Let this community witness it the way this whole episode said a real declaration needs to be witnessed, right? Share this episode with one person. Share it with 3 people, right? 3 people you know is sitting on a declaration they haven't said out loud, right? Not 10 people. I said 3, right? Not a mass share for reach, but one specific person who needs to hear exactly what we're talking about or what we've talked about. That's how a declaration arc lives and actually spreads, not through algorithms, through one person handing it directly to another person who's ready to hear it. Take care of each other this week. It's going to be hot. And look, I'll be right here to talk to you again. We're sitting down Sundays, same time, same mission. And that is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying with me. I went over, man, but I appreciate you guys staying here, right? And always remember this. There's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but there's even a heavier pain that comes with regret, right? And if I don't see you again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That is our show, ladies and gentlemen. That is our show. And make sure you go like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe, right? And as always, I am here. We are here, right? Be balanced, be equal, and be smart. That's our show for the evening, right? And I'll see you again tonight at 9 p.m. live for Motivation Mondays, man. Motivation Mondays. Y'all have a great night. This has been fun as usual, right? And I'll see you again in a few hours. Take care.
Table like it's on me. Put it on my tab, kid. However you get there, foot it, cab it, iron horse it. You leave it on your face, forfeit. Across the mic, hold it like the heat. He might toss it. Told her, tell him they stole it. He told her he lost it. She told him get off it and a bunch of other more shit. Getting money, DTs be getting no new leads. It's like eating watermelon.